Welcome back to Grassroots Radio Colorado. This is Kris Cook. I've got Cori and Andy Pate of the Party of Choice in studio with me. It's always Cori and then Andy. You always get to go for it first, Cori.
I know. I'm your favorite.
So we're talking about, well, we started out talking about Greeks and Jews. I mean, what we're really talking about is how to reach an audience that you honestly, they've been informed, they've been educated, they're being entertained by the liberal progressive machine, so they don't even speak our language. We start talking about capitalism and free market, or we start talking about, you know, having liberty and that kind of thing. They're not even in the same book, let alone on the same page.
Not even close. And so that's what we have to keep in mind is who is your audience and what direction are they coming from?
Right.
So just a real quick one. You know, Andy has an example to share, but the war on women.
Okay.
They're starting at it from a women's rights perspective, right?
Right.
And they think that this woman is entitled and that we hate the woman and that we want to take something away from them. But really what we're trying to say is, no, we don't want one person to be forced to pay for someone else's choice.
Right.
So when you take that step back and you talk about that first, you lay that groundwork, which gets them thinking, and it makes them realize, oh, I never thought of it that way before.
Right.
So then what is the first thing we usually talk about with the war on women? Jobs.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The real war on women is that, you know, there are fewer jobs out there, or you name it. When you start with, that's kind of step 2. And when you start with step 2, you're assuming that they understand what you're talking about.
Right.
So that's why you have to take it back a step, tear down that foundational misinformation that they've been given, and show them, no, that's not what it's about. It's about this. It's one person being forced to pay for somebody else's choice.
Okay.
And then you can, once they get that, then you can get into that. Now let's talk about the real war on women.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, remember Paul talking to the Greeks at Athens. What did he do first? He didn't lead in with, let me tell you about Jesus. Although they'd probably really enjoy the accent.
They probably would.
Yes. That alone would be compelling. But no, he led in with something that they could relate to. That he shared with them. Find something you share with your audience. And so he said, you know, hey, I see you're very religious. So am I. Let me tell you how my God is different from yours.
Right.
And then it became fascinating. War on women again, you know. I always say, hey, I love the fact, you know, if I'm talking to a pro-choice one, hey, I love the reason you're pro-choice. You don't want the government telling a woman what she can do with her body.
Right.
Neither do I. I want to control my own life, not yours. I just don't want one person's choice to take away another. So our only difference is we differ on when the child becomes a human life. And that's fair. And we can discuss that and debate the science of it. But let me ask you this. Do I really sound like someone who hates women? Because you don't sound like someone who hates babies.
I love that response. I just love
Right. And yes, I've actually used that. And what it does is now the anger is way down.
Right.
And they're going to be much more willing to listen to your reasons about why you think it's a human life. Look, I'm just concerned about one person's choice taking away another. And if I have to, I'll say, for instance, if a company pours sewage in a river, their choice is taking away the choice of people downstream to have clean water.
Right.
If I kill a guy, my choice takes away his choice of life. Okay, I don't want one person's choice taking away another person's choice. And you've heard that from me before. Mm-hmm. The reason I use that kind of stuff is because it relates. And people relate to wanting liberty, but they don't like the word liberty yet. That's why when I talk about, you know, your allowance.
Right.
You know, what was it like the first time you didn't depend on your parents for something?
Right.
That feeling was liberty.
What you're doing when you do that is you're taking them by the hand and you're walking them down that emotional path to liberty without telling them just flat out liberty is great.
Right. And the neat thing is, though, once they get it, they really get it.
Right.
You know, it's crushing me right now to see Mike Pence in Indiana. Okay? Yeah, this is a Republican governor. And by the way, he's a conservative Tea Party.
A conservative Tea Party Republican governor.
Yeah, and he wants what? A state-run media there to give, you know, accurate, you know, the dispatches and whatever. It's like, dude, what happens the second we have a Democrat in there? In fact, how can we even trust your releases? You know,
you can't.
Okay, so here you got a conservative, he already gets it, and then he wanders off the reservation. Here's the beauty of it. So often with a young liberal or apolitical person, when you win them to liberty, they defend it.
Right.
And boy, did they defend it because they feel free. They're like, oh my gosh, I understand this. And it's so funny. People will just be like, trying to get them on this kind of public support and that. And they're just like, nope.
Right.
You want free college? Yeah, every dime for that has to come out of the free market that would employ me.
Right.
Do you want this? Right. You're trying to get me with a few dog biscuits that you're tossing my way while by the way, every dime that you're taking, it's not just coming out of today's economy. It's coming out of tomorrow's economy because we're 18 trillion in debt. And by the way, I'm young and I'm paying for that.
Exactly. It's coming out of my pocket 20 years down the road.
So yeah, you're not just crushing my liberty now. You're crushing my liberty then. You're just crushing my liberty. It's wonderful when you can start talking to people about liberty. But remember, you're in a Greek society. Do not assume that they understand your foundations.
Right.
Connect with them and explain those foundations. Connect with them to show them how they want those things too. There are plenty of conservatives out there, folks. They just don't know it yet.
Right. Well, and there ought to be. I mean, these are really fundamental human values. These are not. It's not just conservative. And it's not, no matter how much we're painted as being uncompassionate, no matter how much we're painted as being racist and nativist and we hate women and all of that, we're not that. And most people aren't.
No, in fact, when you have conversations and you're not even talking actual politics, most of the time people will agree with you.
Exactly.
They share your values.
Exactly.
They don't like it when people are getting a free ride.
Right.
Either.
That's not fair.
No.
Well, go into any college class and say, okay, you believe in redistribution. How about we redistribute the grade point average? Mm-hmm. And all of them will say, no freaking way.
Except for the guy in the back.
Except for the one guy in the back who probably is Andy.
Yeah!
Who's failing in the class miserably and will come out ahead of everyone else.
Exactly. I mean, the kids who have A's, there's no way they're gonna go for that. Even in leftist academia, they understand this concept.
Well, and you know what's really funny is that when you do reach someone, especially a young person, Andy says some of them get really excited. It's like they're enlightened. Well, some of them get really angry because they feel like they've been lied to all their lives.
Oh, yeah.
And then they go off, and when they're angry, they go off and they tell everybody. In fact, Andy had one employee who he had converted to become a conservative, and this guy was
Off hours.
But he was so excited that he was talking to everybody on the job about it. And then he'd be like, yeah, well, you should go talk to Andy about that. And he'd say, no, shh, don't do that.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. It was terrible. Yeah, he put on Fox News all the time. He'd tell people how they, you're all hooked on government. He'd be like, oh my gosh, I took the blue pill. I escaped the Matrix. I can't stop it. You're all living a lie.
I love it.
They get a little too excited, people, so don't do it too well.
Or else carry a tranquilizer gun.
Okay, we're just going to calm you down now. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, it's wonderful, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is. It's to see that light come on. And I think all of us have had, even those of us who were raised in conservative households, have had something of a conservative epiphany ourselves at some point along the way where you actually figured out what all this stuff was about.
Right.
You figured out the philosophical underpinnings and you see how the system fits together and you see the beauty of it. It was, for me, it was figuring out the beauty behind the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and understanding what this system was intended to be and to see the basic outlines of that, just to see the very simple lines.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was an epiphany.
Well, and once again, relate to them, right?
Right.
Okay. Young people, they want the minimum wage raised. Okay. You say, but what do you have in common with them? All of them buy things just like you do.
Right.
Okay. So you say, okay, you go to Walmart and there's two things on the shelf, comparable quality. One's $2 less. What are you going to buy?
The one that's $2 less?
You commie. Okay. No, so you're going to buy the...
I'm going to buy the blue one.
I'm going to buy the blue one. I'm sorry. Chris will buy the pretty one. Now, for everybody else, okay, so you'll buy the cheaper one. Why? Because you want a better deal. Guess what? You raise the minimum wage. You just raise what the people who are making that, selling that, stocking that, and doing everything else with that, the price of your products everywhere is going to go up too.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, you're going to have fewer jobs because you just raised the price of employing people. Right. Number three, newsflash, just like you, the rich want a better deal too. So what if we in America keep driving up the price of labor? Where are they going to go to make and sell their products?
Offshore.
Oh my goodness, what you were talking about in trade agreements earlier.
Exactly. And it completely annihilates our competitiveness on the world market.
You know what I think we should do is we should just, turn Cuba into practically another state and just have this wonderful open agreement. And, because then we can, even though they can't buy anything and it's going to be totally one-sided, we can then offshore even more jobs right there. They're so close. They can make stuff.
Exactly.
That's an exaggerated example, but you know what I mean? Look, when you talk to young people, you start with where they are. You buy things.
Right.
You just drove up the price of everything you buy. So your raise is worth less, and there are going to be fewer jobs because they're not going to pay, they're not going to have as many.
Right.
And that's why you're going to see a lot of older people taking your job because they actually have experience.
But Andy.
Yes.
The thing is that that's because of all those greedy bastards who own the company, and they shouldn't be allowed to drive up the price. They should just, because they've got all these profits and they've got all this money and they just make it all and they're just sleeping on piles of money. And so that's why.
Oh, Kris, can I call you Chrissy? Can you be the 18-year-old again? I love doing this to you.
No.
That's why I love doing it too. Let me ask you this, as I've said before, if I take more of what you have, won't you cling to what you have left?
Yes.
Okay. Second question, do you believe rich people are perfect, pure creatures? Everyone is a cross between Jesus, Gandhi, and Mother Teresa, all rolled into one?
No.
No. So they're selfish just like you. Okay, so if I take more of what they have, won't they cling to what they have left? Or are you saying that they're better people than you?
They're supposed to be better people than me.
Oh, they're supposed to be better. So you're going to hate them for being you. I see.
I love it. Cori and Andy Pate, the Party of Choice. One more time, where can people find you?
We are on the web at thepartyofchoice.com, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and YouTube.
And as always, we will put a link to your organization on the Grassroots Radio Colorado Facebook page. Guys, when you come in on Thursdays, that second hour, it just goes like that. It goes so fast, and I wish you could stay for longer. So next Thursday, I'm giving you guys the helm. So you get it all to yourselves. This should be fun.
2 hours of the Party of Choice.
2 hours of the Party of Choice. That'll be great. Folks, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Remember, if you missed any part of this, you can always find the podcast. It's on grrc.podomatic.com. This is Kris Cook. You've been listening to Grassroots Radio Colorado on KLZ 560. And remember, America is great because Americans are great. So go out there and be exceptional. Exceptional.